Welcome to this interview with Desiree Moore. I'm Kelly Schutnick. I'm a book marketing coach, and Desiree is an author who I met on TikTok, of all places. And we've known each other for what? Year,
More than
couple
a year.
years? Yeah, it's been a while. I really love to get to know Desiree on TikTok, and we'll get into her book here. But Desiree actually started promoting her book months before it came out. So it just published about a month ago, almost to the day here. It was the end of August. And it was very exciting to have her book come out. I also, oh, if we have a chance, Desiree, I'll show your book launch package, or what did you call it? Your book
Oh, my PR,
PR
yeah, the
kit.
PR package. Yeah.
Yes, it was pretty impressive. So to get us started, Desiree, I'd love for you to tell us, first of all, about your book and kind of your author journey. What led you to write it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the book is called Untitled for now. I have a copy with me. Oh, it's right here. I have a copy with
Look
me right.
at that.
Oh, but I have the blur screen on, so I have to put it like in front of my face. But it's Untitled for now, and it is the story of Helen, who grows up in this family that is marred by addiction, poverty, and trauma, and all she wants to do is break the cycle until the cycle breaks her. And at the age of 36, she finds herself in a mental hospital, missing 30 years of her memory. And this is based on a true story, my story. I never woke up in a mental hospital missing 30 years of my memory. I need to get that out of the way. But I wanted to put a structure to my life story, that I wanted it to feel like a story with that traditional arc, but not necessarily. And I didn't want it to feel like a memoir. And so that was how I did it, is I created Helen, and she ended up being the perfect vessel for carrying my life experiences through. But yeah, what part of your question did I miss?
Well, so you told us about your book. You didn't miss any part of the question, but I'll extend that question to tell me about, like, you mentioned that this was kind of your life, that you wrote this story. It's your and what remind me what the subtitle is. It's based on a true story. Is that what the subtitle is? Yep. So very obvious that it's based on your story. But what was the moment for you where you said to yourself, like, I have to write this story. I have to get this into written format and put it out there.
Yeah, so I've wanted to be an author for a very long time. I like to tell the story, but when I was a freshman in high school, have you ever heard that prompt? Like, what's one uh, like unserious, like, decision that you made that changed the rest of your life,
Hmm.
right? Like, seems inconsequential at the time. I decided to do my homework. That would be mine. I decided to do my homework in the ninth grade, and it was a writing assignment for my freshman English class, and I turned it in. And at the end of class, my English teacher asked me to come to her desk and said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" I was like, "Oh gosh, am I in trouble?" So I get up there, and she's like, "I wanted to go over your assignment with you. You have a real talent for writing." And then after that, I dropped out of high school, which is, I dropped out of high school. I was a teen mom, and it wouldn't be until years later that I would go to college. And I remembered writing my very first paper for college, and I thought, because I didn't graduate high school, I was going to turn it in and I was come back and be like red all over it, just red ink. And it came back and it was an A+. And I went, and I remembered that comment made by that freshman English teacher, right? And I was like, maybe I'm good at this. Like, maybe I really am good at this. Like, maybe this is something I'm good at. And so I went through my education. I got my master's degree, and I ended up writing a series of short stories based on the unique to woman experience. And that was really fun. And that was my capstone project. And so I've always known that I wanted to write a book. But what was really interesting about this journey is that I kept trying to write them, but could never complete them, because I knew that this was the first one I needed to get done. So I had all these other ones I'd worked on, half written manuscripts, but I kept hitting this brick wall. And it was really because I'd known that I needed to write a book based on my life story, but I was scared to do the work. But I couldn't write anything else until I got this one done.
Nice, nice. So we talked about well, so we talked about the fact that we met on TikTok, and we did a TikTok live, I don't know, a few weeks ago together. So we talked a lot about your book and kind of the story in it. So your story is pretty tragic. I mean, there's a tragedy you wrote about that would be, I think, hard for most people to share and to relive through the writing process. I'm sure you've also gone through all kinds of therapy and everything, reliving that situation and healing from it. Um, who, I guess, who did you write it for? Did you write it for yourself, or did you write it for somebody else? So like you said, like this was the first story I had to get out there. Like, who did you want to write that for?
You may have heard me tell this story, but when I used to work with at-risk youth, I sat down with a young pregnant girl who was in an abusive relationship, and I told her my story, right? I didn't say anything about her relationship. I didn't judge her. I was just like, I want to tell you where I come from. And for those of you who don't know, my daughter passed away, and my ex-husband was responsible for her death. And that young teenage girl left her abusive relationship and is thriving and a nurse and a wonderful mother today. And she still credits me for that. I wrote it for women, young women like her. I wrote it for my daughters. I wrote it for myself. I also wrote it to honor people who are no longer here. Some people are gone for less benign reasons, while others are gone for more like tragic ones. But I grew up in a family of addicts, and if you look at the death rate of families that are marred by addiction, it's really alarming. And it's reflected in the mortality rates of my family members. But some of those family members I love with my whole heart, and had a profound impact on me, and I wanted to honor them. And so doing so in my book was, honestly, I'm grateful that I had the skill and the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And so that the woman that you mentioned that you talked to, a young, I'm sorry, I forgot how you described the person, but
Yeah, a young pregnant teen or
young
teen.
pregnant teen. Yeah. So in writing this story, so that's part of your story, right? That you were a young pregnant teen, and that was part of your dropping out of high school. Is that like who um like in who you wrote that for? I guess let's phrase it that way. Like the you wrote that story, you have that experience where you were talking to this young pregnant teen and telling her your story. What do you hope somebody like that takes away from your book when they read it?
Yeah, I just, it depends on where they are in their life, right? They may have been that girl 10 years ago or 20 years ago. They may be that girl now. I do say, like, teenagers, talk to your grown-ups before you read my book, because there's a lot of, things in the content warnings in there. But this is real life. These are real things that happen to people. It's fiction, but these are real issues. My teen is going to be reading it, but or actually currently is in her English class. But I hope that people feel seen, and not just feel seen, but a lot of people my whole life have asked me, Desiree, you've lived this life and you've ended up this way. How does that happen? Right? How do you grow up this way and have all these things happen to you, and you end up essentially okay, successful, by whoever's, definition. Like, I am the quintessential, like, you know what I mean? Like, but I think it's because I've always had hope. Like, even with every bad thing that's ever happened to me, I've always had hope. And so this book is for the person who needs that, who needs to be reminded to have hope. And I think that's a pretty large audience. So kind of hard to narrow down sometimes, but.
Well, and so the title is Untitled for now, which is when you were marketing, pre-launch marketing the book, you would say all the time, that's the actual title.
Yes. Yeah, because they didn't have a cover yet, so people wouldn't know.
My book, Untitled for Now, that's the actual title. Does that have some significance in the overall story? Like, where did the title come from?
Oh yeah. So this is, I don't know, it's kind of a fun story, but I was, when I first started this book, I started sending chapters to an alpha reader who is, somebody who reads the book very early on. I mean, these were the roughest of rough drafts. These were even like not even first drafts, you know, they were really bad. But I needed somebody to hold me accountable because I really needed to get the story out. And there's somebody I met. I've never actually even seen her before. I couldn't tell you 100% what she looks like. I met her on TikTok. She's a friend of mine. She's always in my comments. I know her voice because I've talked to her on the phone. You know, I know her profile picture. I know her username. But we've become very close in this weird, like, you know, social space. And I said, I need some help with this. And so I said, I'm going to send you chapters every week. You're going to hold me accountable. And I didn't know what to title it. So I just titled it Untitled for now. So that was just the name of the document. That wasn't the title of the book. And I was driving home from work one day and I was thinking about it. And I was like, well, this book is about Helen, who is missing 30 years of her memory. She doesn't know what her story is, which means it's essentially untitled, right? And I'm like, wait, does this work? Is this lazy? I don't know. So I went on TikTok and I asked my friends on TikTok and they were like, no, it's not lazy. Do it. Oh my gosh, we love it. So, and then at that point, and that was about a year ago. So, and at that point, it became officially the title of the book, Untitled for Now.
Nice.
Yeah. And
Nice.
it's crazy to me. Like some people still like, I have a big banner sign that has my book cover on it. And somebody asked me, like, I was standing at a table, like doing this event, and somebody said, oh, when are you going to come up with the title for your book? And I thought at first they were kidding. And I was like, ah, that's a good one. Because I was like, it's on the cover now. So you should know, right? And they were like, I'm not making a joke. Legit
No,
question.
no, really. What is the title? No. That's funny. Well, such an interesting like journey of going through that process of writing your book. And you did some kind of crowdsourcing, it sounds like, on TikTok and getting feedback from people. Um and that's where we met, like I said, on TikTok. How did like you're super active on TikTok. You have 300,000, almost 300,000 followers, which is pretty amazing. Um, how have you used TikTok in your book marketing? Like tell us about kind of what was your strategy in promoting it? I think a lot of authors have a hard time with promoting a book pre-launch like so early like that because it feels like you need the actual book to promote. But I think a big part of what you did was getting a lot of interest, building that interest in the book before it came out. So kind of how did you approach that? Like how did you create that plan and what was your strategy to reach your target audience?
So I'll tell you what's at the core of my strategy, and that's always to like show up and be kind. That's really at the core. Um, and what that means is just showing up, whether that is responding to comments, right? So I'll see some authors, they'll be posting. People will comment on their posts and they never like respond to their comments. I'm like, you never respond to and you have like 2 on videos. So like there's enough, like that doesn't make I have hundreds sometimes. And if I can't respond to all of them, which happens, I like every single one, right? But it's not only just showing up on your own page, but it's showing up on other people's pages and book talk,
Hmm.
sharing books that you loved. And you don't have to make videos about books you loved. I didn't for a long time. I just started doing that actually. But I was on Book Talk. I was like supporting people. I was complimenting, oh, I love your shirt. If I really did love their shirt, but also that book is really good, or I'm going to add that to my TBR, or, oh, I didn't know there was a sequel to that one. That was a recent comment actually I just made on somebody's post this morning. And because I was really excited when they told me about the sequel of a book I didn't know that existed. Um, but yeah, so just showing up and being kind is really the cornerstone of my marketing strategy. And it's really about community. So when I first started marketing my book on TikTok, it wasn't actually like completely on purpose. I never started TikTok with the thought, I'm going to become an author and I'm going to sell copies of my book on here. That was not my intention. My intention was, I want to be part of this really cool community. I want friends, and I want to share my story with the world, which thankfully goes together hand in hand with my book. And so I built this following on just kind of not, I've never niched down. I've never been one to like, I have like different eras, different TikTok eras. I had like my body positivity TikTok era for a long time. I had, just talking about mom, talking about things like leadership or Clifton Strengths Finder for period. I have a subset of followers who follow me because I used to post leadership content all the time.
Okay.
And I still do sometimes. Sometimes you'll catch it. I post mom content. I've never niched down. I just show up and I'm kind. That's probably, some people are going to tell you that's not a good strategy, but that's who I am genuinely. I'm not a one-dimensional person at all. I would say the only thing that I don't bring to the table with me genuinely is sometimes my sense of humor, because I have a little bit of an off-color sense of humor and I try to keep it kind of clean and professional for the most part on my page. Just because I have some youth, like some young people who follow me, and then I also have a
Sure.
full job and I want to, make sure I'm maintaining like a semi-professional appearance, but yeah, it was really about building community. It was about making people feel seen and loved and heard. And that's how I started. And so then when I did decide to write my book, I'm already updating them on things that are going on in my life. I'm already talking about whatever's on my mind, what's random. So why not tell them like, my writer woes? And that wasn't like through cute memes. That was me being like, oh my God, this is really hard, or I finally made it to this goal, or I'm going to challenge myself to do this thing, and just telling people what I'm doing. That's all it was. And I know I keep saying just, but I know it's not that easy for some people.
Yeah, well, it's not. And I mean, I feel like I know you really well because you put out all of this content. Like you talk about your life, you talk about things that are going on. I think I've seen you, I know you're in marketing, which, we both are in the same field. I've seen you do some videos to help people or have people help you pick out an outfit for an event you're going to. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's really fun. I think one of the biggest things I tell authors all the time is like you cannot just post about your book. And I know that's hard because they're like, but if I want to sell my book, so I have to talk about my book all the time. But some of it is you connect with people through those other things, helping you pick out your outfit, seeing you take your daughter to a concert. I remember seeing that one. Like I have these like memories of your life through your videos where if you were constantly just showing me your book and saying, buy my book, I'd probably lose interest and stop following you, right? But you know how to kind of make your content diverse and connect with people in different ways. Um, what
I
is
get tired
the,
of talking about my own book, to be honest.
yeah,
Like, and then I'll be like, I haven't, I still gotta talk about it. So like
right, right.
I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna make a video, or I'll duet somebody reviewing it. But yeah, I try not to I get bored with myself.
Right.
And it's so funny because I'll see other people, other social media creators, and they like will post the same kind of content and tell the same kind of story over and over again. And it performs really well over and over again because they're meeting new people. So it's okay to post about your book more than once. But if your brand, if your book and your brand are very closely intertwined, you don't want to post just about your book. And
Right.
I think that as authors, we should work on our personal brand just as much as we work on anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what is the feedback been from TikTok about your book? So because you have all that, you have, like I said, almost 300,000 followers, you maybe kind of collected different followers during different phases as you were learning TikTok, connecting with people, all of that. Um, have you gotten just, I guess, what's your sense of like your community's take on your book and kind of the support you've gotten there?
Yeah, so I think that it's just largely been positive. I get a message or a comment at least once a day saying, I read your book, or I'm on chapter 16, or I bought your book. Actually, probably more than once a day if I think about the diversity of those comments, but and messages. And I've really enjoyed it, that people are telling me how my book has had an impact on them. I really do love that. I Yeah, I just think it's really important. And I've collected some new followers through and mutuals, because, there are people who have found me because they've read my book, which is kind of amazing to me. Just a few so far, but they've come to my page because they read it. And that
Nice.
was really neat.
Nice. It's nice to see that support happening. I mean, I'm seeing those TikToks with people that are sharing your book. I did a video sharing your PR kit, which was, like I said, pretty amazing. I mean, you did a great job of putting that together and really gathering kind of a group of author support, or not author supporters, but like reader supporters, right, on TikTok, and people that you knew might be interested in your book and maybe not, but I mean you definitely kind of developed that group of people. What has been the most surprising thing to you in your author journey, from, when idea to this point, 30 days or so outside of publication?
Oh, I don't know. I think to be honest, it's really small, but and it has nothing to do with marketing, but the grasp that perfectionism has on you when you are publishing your debut novel, you know what I mean? Like and the stress of publishing, I've had a very stressful life, but I don't think I've felt that much stress condensed as I did when I was releasing this. I was having nightmares every night, which if you're watching this and you're like, maybe I want to write a book, and you're like, oh, never mind. I got through it. It didn't last forever, but I was having nightmares every night. I had one nightmare. There was this trend on TikTok where it was this country song that sounds like gibberish. And it was like, I can't sing it, so I won't. But I watched that TikTok, and then that night I had this dream that there were like paragraphs in my book that were that type of gibberish. And I kept waking up like, oh, I got to go fix that because the book comes out in a week. Right. And like waking up and like, I got to go fix that. And I kept falling back asleep being like, oh, that's not real. No, actually it is. And so just so much stress. I had so many things on my to-do list. It felt like it would never end. I still have things on my to-do list, but now I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm resting right now and I'll get to it later.
Yeah, yeah. So what was your process like? You talked about kind of all of that stress of publishing, publishing all the things that you went through. I know you used an editor, you had a developmental editor. Kind of, how did you approach all of those different things? I mean, I used to work in publishing where we provided all those services, but you were doing it totally on your own, right?
Yes, yes. So at first I used a service called Readsy, and I used them to
Okay.
find my cover artist and my developmental editor. I will say that I, if I could say something to an author to give them just a little bit of guidance, and I probably need to develop something, is that to really understand what your developmental editor is going to provide, even if they give you sample edits, because I got sample edits from mine, but I was really saddened by the quality of work of my developmental editor, who happens to be a New York Times bestselling author. So like, to me, like, that's, I mean, that's a huge honor. And they must be a really great writer and editor. And they had great reviews on Readsy. And they ended up being absolutely not the right fit for me, and
Yeah.
terrible. And it's not, I don't think it's because I'm terrible to work with. I really do not. I think I'm pretty easy to work with. If anything, I'm a little bit of a people pleaser. So sometimes that can get me in trouble because I'll let things slide that I probably shouldn't. And and from working with another editor, my line editor, I can tell you that it was a night and day difference in experience. And so those are things that if you're independently published, that you're just going to have to learn the hard way. So now that I have a line editor I trust, it would be hard for me to use someone else, but it also teaches me what to look for in the future, you know?
Hmm.
And so things I would say if you're looking for an editor is look for an editor who asks questions, right? And doesn't make assumptions off the bat. Who's very who really wants to know what your vision is for your book.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I write literary fiction, and thankfully literary fiction is well known for breaking genre conventions, right? Like, we break rules. But if you look at most books, like genre fiction books, like romance or thriller, they have a very like most authors write in this very structured way, right? This 3-act structure. It's not the only way. I mean, there's romance authors who don't use it, but you can see it repeated over and over again. And with literary fiction, those authors are more likely, any author can, but more likely to break those conventions. And my developmental editor was very much focused on those genre conventions, and I don't like them, so I don't want to follow those rules. But she didn't
Yeah.
understand, and so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But
what were so you had your editors, you had your cover designer. What else did you invest in your book was self-published, right? Not like through any sort of publishing
no.
house at all. Yeah.
Yeah, it was completely independently published. So I did, of course, invest in a developmental editor, which I will think about that before I do that again. I did go through 2 rounds of beta edits, or beta readers, not edits,
Mhm.
but beta readers. I
Yep.
did an editing after each round. And then I did line editing, and then I did professional proofreading, and I had
Wow.
a professionally designed cover. And then I think that's it. Everything. I mean, I invested in other ways. I invested in education along the way. I spent hours upon hours listening to podcasts on writing, on marketing books. I took courses. I bought books. I read Story Genius and Save the Cat, and I read, I have all of the different thesauruses. I don't know if you've ever, like, the emotions thesaurus, like things like that.
Okay.
And I also read a lot of works of authors that I've already read before, authors that I really admire. And I reminded myself of what I admired about their writing as I was going through the writing process. And so I was probably spending about equal time writing as I was on professional development throughout the process.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will definitely tell you from all the books that I read from authors, not a lot of authors put that type of investment
Independently.
into, yeah.
You can just
I
say it.
well, I mean, I think it's great. I don't mind if there are errors in a book. I don't mind if it's, it's okay to have an error here or there, but um, when for 2 things that get me, a cover that is crappy, yours
Mhm.
is not. And if there are errors that are just all over the place, like just constant error, like I have to stop reading it. I'm like, I can't keep reading this. Um, and yeah, so I mean, I think it's great that you invested in those things. I think that was smart. What about on the marketing side? What did you, I mean, you talked about the education part of it, but did you hire anyone for marketing? Did you have anyone help you, like coaching, anything like that?
No, I didn't hire a coach. I did hire someone who's been helping me with, like, my Facebook and Instagram, but really I asked her, it's like, can you just get it off the ground for me? I'll supply you with all the content. So I supply her with all of the content every month. I actually build it into a Monday.com board. And then she schedules it through Loonly, right? And then I respond to all comments. Like, she doesn't even spend 3 hours a month on it. Like, it was really just to get me over the hump, because I felt like I could not take on one more social media platform. TikTok was just way too much. And now I feel like, oh, well, it's not as bad, as I thought it was, which is funny because
Yeah,
I've been managing social media forever. It just felt like too much at the time. I felt
yeah.
overwhelming. So I hired somebody just to get it off the ground for me, fill out my profile, get it started. But other than that, I haven't hired a coach. I did invest in, you may know Michael LeBron. He's an independent author on
Okay.
TikTok, but he really does a lot of work around amplifying voices of of independent authors who are who are also people of color. And I really
Hmm.
respect the work he does. And so he does offer consultations when it comes to diversity in your books, because we should be writing diverse books. The characters in your books should look like the world you walk around in. Now I live in Wyoming, so maybe
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the world I walk around in, but generally. And I wanted to ask some questions about approaching race in my book. It was important for me to have a diverse cast, but a huge portion of this cast was all a family, and the family happened to be white. So how do I do that in a way that's tasteful, that represents the world, that represents experiences? And so I have a Black nurse here, and then I have Ashley, who is Asian, right? And actually, she was inspired by somebody I met in real life. All of the people in my book were actually inspired by real people.
Yeah.
Some of them just don't really fit. Like, I had a nail tech one time, and I loved her personality, and she's in my book somewhere, right? And so,
Nice.
like, you never know. But yeah, I did invest in that. And then I did invest in some courses. Actually, I just did that, some like ads courses. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. It's actually the only course I've purchased is that one. And it's kind of
Okay.
good. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd love to hear how you like it, what you get out of it. Because ads for authors can be, authors aren't necessarily, marketing people, right? So it's hard to know how to do those things. But they can also be, if you do some advertising on Amazon, it can be really easy and pretty, you can get a lot of reach for the money that you spend. It can be pretty inexpensive to do ads on Amazon, but if you don't know what you're doing, then you can
You can
also,
spend a lot of money and get no return.
right, exactly. Yeah.
And that's
Well, I
why.
want to show your kit. So hang on a second. I actually have it sitting right here in my office, also known as my daughter's bedroom, but she moved away to college, so I get to use this as my office space. So first of all, you had these great boxes created.
Mhm.
So, and they have the cover on the inside with QR code, um, your book. So I've got the hard copy right here. I actually read the Kindle version, but I have the hard copy. Um, Nice little personalized cards that you sent with the book cover, or part of the book cover there. You had so much great stuff in here. So you have tea, you have like a teaspoon, you have a candle. So how did you come up with this book package? Because I've honestly, in 15 years of working with authors, I've never seen anyone put something
Oh,
that great together. So tell me about how you kind of came up with the idea and how you
yeah.
approached putting them together.
So I think that I am a creative person, thankfully. And I am a graphic designer too. So I graphically designed everything you see in that box. And I made the earrings, and like I made everything. So that's one thing. I know how to do that stuff. I did not design my own cover, because just because you know how to do graphic design doesn't mean you should design your own
Right,
cover.
right.
And I'm a graphic designer, not a graphic illustrator, two very different things, in my mind. I can move shapes and elements around on a page and do a pretty good job, but I can't, like, use a pen on a digital screen and come up with something from scratch very well. But anyway, so what I wanted to do with the box is I wanted to bring out pieces of the story, right? And so I wanted to honor the story through the box, and also honor the process of publishing this book. So there are a couple things in there. There are some postcards that say "Hey Rugrat" on them, which is, those are from
Oh,
the, yep,
yep.
yeah,
Okay.
the palm trees, with the postcards with the palm trees. And I think I included like 5, so you could send them to friends, and they say "Hey Rugrat." And then there's the ladybug earrings. And so ladybugs are significant to the book, because, and you'll see them on the cover and the chapter headings, because that was the nickname that was like how Helen thought of her youngest child, Raina. She was so peaceful, and she was her little ladybug. And there was this ladybug nursery rhyme that she sings her in the book. And so that is representative, and that's actually representative of my real life daughter, whose name was Katie, Cady, and I called her Katie Bug, my ladybug. So that was my way of honoring her. And then, like, the candle, you think about a book and you think about describing people, and think about not just what they look like, but how they smell, right? And so Billy Ray is described as this man who smells like spearmint gum and piney pomade and Old Spice cologne.
Hmm.
And that smell is important, because she smells it the first time she meets him. But then there's this moment towards the end where she sits down next to somebody, and they smell like that. And at that moment, she's having this this inner crisis, right? Where she's like feeling anxious and doesn't know what to do and like wants to get up and go back home. But just that presence of that smell gives her like the courage she needs to keep moving forward. And so I wanted to make a candle that smelled like Billy Ray. I mean, there's so many more things in there. I used some
Yeah,
quotes from
it's
the books,
amazing.
the bookmarks and the stickers.
And you've got the rock.
Yeah, and so that's a theme in the book. In the book, there are rocks with words like anger and pain and hurt. And I wrote actually a lot in a lot of the books that I signed and sent to people, not in every single one, but some of them I just pick randomly. And it said, may you release your rocks and fill the space with joy, And so thinking about releasing those rocks of pain and hurt and loneliness and recognizing that emotion, letting it go, and then filling that space with things like healing or love or strength or joy, that's kind of what I wanted to do with those rocks. And I hand painted those with my daughter, and it's just super fun. And I think there's that the box itself was designed to look like a lunch box that the protagonist keeps under her bed. And so I designed it like that. What else? Tea. The reason there
Yeah, the
is the
tea.
sieve and the teaspoon and the blueberry tea is because I have a tradition. I actually always, before I start writing, I light a candle and I brew a cup of blueberry tea before I start writing. So it's a little tradition. It's a little nod to my tradition of drinking blueberry tea when I write. So anyway, I just thought of things I could take from the book and turn them into real things and then deliver them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great. I loved it. Uh, I don't expect when I get an author a copy of a book and an art copy, I don't ever expect anything other than the book in the package. It's nice. Sometimes I'll get bookmarks, sometimes I'll get little trinkets, some fun things. This was pretty surprising. When it came, I was like, oh, I have to put it all back and record a TikTok showing my followers this amazing book package. So
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Thank you. And I'll always
Yeah.
handwrite cards because I really do feel like it is the most special touch in the world. And you will never get a typed letter from me. You will always get a handwritten card.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely a nice touch. And this was for your ARC readers, just to be clear. So this wasn't for, I mean, this was basically who you sent this to read ahead of time, right?
Sort of. So my ARC readers were actually a small or a group. I have a street team. So I haven't talked about that. I have this street team on Facebook, and it's a group of about 60 people who are dedicated to helping me spread the word about Untitled for now. And those people received ebooks. And so just because of, limited budget, and I needed my PR boxes and so what I did was I had two lists. I had my ARC readers who were my street team members, right, who are getting an ebook. And then I had people who are on social media or have like book blogs or, bookstagrams or review books on YouTube or whatever it is, right, that I have connected with that are in those spaces. I made sure that I did not want to send a box to anybody blindly. I didn't want anybody to just like receive it and be like, I don't know who this lady is. I think there was only two people who I really want to read the book because I think they'll really, really love it. That I did that too, but I really like spent probably about 6 months curating this list of people. And not all of them had to have a big reach, like a huge social media platform. The requirement was though that either they had a large platform or they make bookish content, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one or the other or both. And so a lot of my ARC team are people on TikTok who don't make any content, right? They
Okay.
don't,
Okay.
don't make any videos. And so, but they did have chances to win PR boxes. Several of my team won PR boxes. And I remember going on there and being like, I feel so bad. I feel like a bad person. You guys are the real MVPs. You're helping me so much. You're doing all this stuff for me. You're sharing on your like Facebook, graphics and stuff, and you're commenting and sharing, and you're telling your best friend, like you're my cheerleaders, like you're my people. And I'm giving these other people PR boxes, right? Who are not you. And it makes me sad. And they're just like, Desiree, we're not here because we want free stuff. We're here because we care about you and we care about your book. If
Yeah.
this is the most strategic way to get the word out about your book, like, then do it. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, which was really nice of them to say, because I just felt bad, I want to give something to everybody, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I loved it. I think it was great. And I did put that content out
yeah,
there. I created one showing um the package, and then I've done some other posts. So I think it really I think it's very strategic and a very good way to help get the word out about your book through your followers and fans. Um, so how do you feel now, 30 days out from publication? Do you feel like you're on this, like, do you have a book publication hangover? Like, do you just feel like totally shot from all the energy that went into that? Or do you feel more energized through that process?
yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I definitely had a book publication hangover. That's a real thing, by the way, like a real thing. I was so freaking tired after like all my reasons for being stressed were gone. Like when I would, or they were still there, but I just didn't care no more. Right. Like I was fine, there's a page in the book. There was about 100 printed copies printed early and there's a line about her falling between two desks, and that stayed in there, and it's a mistake, and 100 copies were printed with that mistake. Like, you know what I mean? And I know about that, so I know that there's 100 copies out there with that mistake in there, and I seriously, that bugged me. So I almost thought about, like, how could I get enough money to buy all those printed copies back? Like, what the heck? Anyway, like, it was nuts. But then eventually I was like, I don't care. That's like
Yeah.
one mistake, Desiree. I don't
Yeah.
care, you
Yeah.
know? And so, and now I'm on that side of it. But yes, a book hangover. I am starting to get re-energized again. I got to start working on my second novel. I already have outlined it fully, and I've done like character cards for all of the major characters. And so I have an outline and that done. So I know who my characters are, I know what my setting is, I know, where the story's going. So that's good. I also got to record the audiobook for Untitled for now, and I'm narrating that myself. I'm not confident in that at all. But my TikTok followers, they call the shots, right? Like, if
Mhm.
you want to talk, like, they boss me around, they tell me what to do. And um, sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But, they really do. If they say they want something, then I try my best to do it. And so I have that. And then I also am playing around with starting a podcast. I haven't told anybody that. That's an announcement that I'm making on your page.
All right. I like
So,
it.
yeah, so I'm looking at maybe starting a podcast. I have to buy all this equipment to be able to record the audiobooks. I was like, let's start a podcast.
Yeah.
Like,
What will the focus of your podcast be?
it will be about it will be a platform for people to tell their stories. And so, I have, because of the type of content I make on TikTok, sharing the trauma that I've gone through, I have a lot of people reach out and say they want to share their story, but they don't know
Yeah.
how, or they're afraid, or whatever it is. And so I was driving, actually, this was last week, so this is a fresh idea. I do my best thinking when I'm driving. And I was driving and I was thinking about this one woman. I know, she said, I really want to put my story out there. She said, but I don't feel comfortable writing it. She goes, and I don't feel comfortable sharing my face and putting it out there that way because of people in my life. But I really have this urge to tell it. Like, what do I do? And I've been thinking about that question for weeks. And I was like, what if she was on a podcast? I'm like, we used a fake name. You know what I mean? She's not showing her face. She doesn't have to use her real name. And then she doesn't have to write a book.
Yeah.
And then that gives her the opportunity to, yeah, gives
Yeah.
her an opportunity to do that. So,
Yeah.
so
Nice.
maybe we'll see. We'll see if I launch it.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing about it on TikTok because I'm sure that's where I will get the updates. Um, well, we did our TikTok live. I think it was a 2-hour TikTok live. You and I can talk forever, whether it's about your book, about writing, publishing, marketing, whatever. We could talk forever. But I will wrap us up with one final question, which is if Untitled for Now were adapted into a movie, who would you want to play Helen?
Oh yeah, that's easy. I even have it on my vision board in my office already. And it would be Anne Hathaway all day, every day. I already have it figured out.
I love that you had an answer like that because I almost didn't ask the question because I was like, I that would totally stop me. I'd be like, I don't know. And you were just like, yep.
Anne Hathaway. Yep, she would be Helen in a second. And
Awesome.
she's like, I love her. I love everything about her. So, and I love how like Helen is actually such like a people pleaser and like like needs validation and like such a, and then like Anne Hathaway really like if you watch any of her interviews, she does not care what other people think and pleasing other people. So I think it's funny like the dichotomy there, but I love that kind of thing.
Nice. Well, I can't wait to see that movie come out someday. Well, thank you, Desiree, for doing this interview, talking about your journey. I know we talked about book marketing, but also it was great to hear your story about the publishing, the writing, all of the things that you went through to get that book out into the world. I was very excited to see it come out. So I appreciate you taking some time to interview with me. And if you're not already following Desiree on TikTok, Desiree, where can they find you?
Yes. So you can find me on TikTok, of course, at me_Desiree. I'm also on Instagram under Desiree _writes. And then I'm on Facebook as Desiree Moore Books. You can go to my website, DesireeMooreBooks.com. Also, you can find my email there. And I would love to hear from anyone with any questions or just anything.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Have a great day.